another due out as well. I'm imagining we want to talk about that as a SIG. But though I know those two things were talked about the same week. So we got to drill down on those at some point. Just be on the lookout for that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's it.
Yeah. All right. That's it for today, at least.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right.
There are a few other lost souls, I guess, are going to join, but this meeting has been officially canceled. So
yeah. I'll stick around for a couple of minutes to because I
let them
saw
know.
Marcella just joined too, so I'll stick around for a couple of minutes to get the people join.
I have a conflict, so I'm happily bailing out. Take care. Talk to you soon. Bye.
Yeah.
Hi. Yeah, I didn't even see that it was being canceled. But yeah, I kind of wanted to hop in since it's been a really long time since I've been able to join this. Yeah. So are these meetings happening weekly now? It seems like most of the time, right?
Happening what?
Are they happening weekly, or at least most of the time?
Oh yeah, positioning meetings are happening weekly. But this meeting time is going to change. A couple of meetings ago, we voted on having the meeting at an earlier time.
Okay.
But I believe that and also at the working group meeting, we decided to up-level the meeting, having it as like an S2C2F and salsa positioning meeting. So earlier time and also the scope of the meeting is going to change as well. All things to stay tuned up. But yeah, the meeting for today is has gotten canceled.
All right. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I'll just try to keep an eye out for the updates then. Yeah.
And I saw that you wanted to have your name added to the blog post. Make sure you get on in that blog and do some comments and stuff as well.
Yeah, I did leave some comments. I don't necessarily need to have my name added. I thought it was mostly for commenting. But yeah, for now it looks like it's mostly going to be Mark and Chris who are going to be the authors. Yeah.
Well, that's what it says. I mean,
oh shoot.
I'm not terribly sure. I'm not terribly sure how that's going to shake out completely. But yeah, that's definitely what it says.
Oh, I totally misread that. Oh wait. Yeah. I don't know if they changed it. It just says add to the Google Doc. I don't know.
Yeah, it has Mark's name and Mark said, "Oh, great that my name is here. I just don't want to be here by myself." So,
yeah, let's see. Yeah. All right. Yeah, what are your thoughts on this blog post?
Oh, you didn't see the stuff I wrote in there? So
I saw some of your comments, yeah.
Well, my thoughts are as I comment regularly, man, when it comes to salsa, we're doing a lot of cart before the horse type stuff. Like I really feel like we need to dot our I's, cross our T's, and one of the comments in there I said as much, like, you know, if we keep putting this stuff out publicly and it keeps changing publicly, then you really are going to have a situation where you're going to begin to lose confidence.
Yeah.
And the work. Like when it comes to a spec, you don't have many opportunities to change. When it becomes public, you don't have many opportunities to change the scope of the spec, because then it stops being a specification.
Yeah.
It starts just being a great idea. It's a great idea that becomes a specification when it's adopted. But if you keep changing the scope of it, you're not going to get much adoption. And the people who have adopted it are going to be like, dude, what am I supposed to do now? You done made me change all of these things in my org, and now I can't. And now I don't even meet the requirements from the last changes because now you've told me something else to do.
Yeah.
And that keeps changing. So I a lot of this I'm on the team because I think this is great work. I just feel like, man, we need to, we're making some bold statements on stuff that ain't done yet. And just the fact alone that you have some people that say that they've adopted salsa. Well, I don't know what salsa you're adopting because things have been split off into 4 or 5 different tracks. Which track did you adopt? Because the last time I checked, we're not even on version 1 yet, and that is the build track. That ain't nothing else.
Yeah.
Right? So like you have a lot of people that are claiming adoption, but what have they adopted? Which is now become the problem.
Yeah. No, even one of the comments that I left kind of towards the bottom of the document, they're just like, oh, are we actually in support of the division? I was like, are we implying that we're going to reverse some of our to your point about it changing too often?
Well, I mean, look, I mean, think about the last time that you were, I mean, I haven't seen you for a while, right? So the last time, I think the last time I saw you, there wasn't Providence yet. Right? So they broken off into like Salsa Providence.
Yeah.
And then there's a whole conversation about S-Bomb versus Salsa Providence.
Yeah.
And then, okay, so let's talk about what the definition of provenance is. Right?
Yeah.
Because the definition that Salsa is using for provenance ain't the definition of provenance.
Yeah. Yeah, that's always been kind of an issue I've had. I think they've always called it provenance. I've been a lot more involved.
You have. You were one of the people that said, well, what provenance are we talking about? Because open source provenance is one thing. All that means is that you can trace an open source component back to its original source. Like you can trace it back. You know where it came from.
Yeah.
So salsa provenance? Why is there a whole different definition of provenance just for salsa? What is that? You know what I mean? And then you're creating a provenance doc, so to speak.
Yeah.
Well, and then why is that being compared to an S-bomb?
Yeah, I have no idea who brought in the S-bomb conversation because salsa and S-bomb are completely different things.
I mean, like I sat there, you should see. When I saw it, I was like, who? I was like, where did the conversation about S-bomb versus salsa provenance go? And they was like, Jay, please don't get started. Don't. They because I came in on the tail end. They're like, Jay, we please don't bring that back up. Just I was like, what the hell? Like I couldn't believe it. I was like, what are they talking about? Oh, I mean, but that's the kind of stuff that's happening. That's kind of stuff that's happening behind the scenes that we don't hear about until it comes up. And a lot of this stuff. I mean, like, look, I've said before. I'm like, okay, I'm not terribly sure how the scope of salsa keeps changing. And once again, in that blog, I said the same thing. I said, we got to be careful about scope creep here. The scope of salsa has changed like 3 or 4 times since the summer. Like the scope of salsa has changed. I don't even, like, I'm trying to figure out why too. Like, why is that? I thought the scope was fine. It just needs to be built upon, but the scope has changed.
Yeah.
Anyway, I mean, look, I still think it's a good effort. I think it's a good effort. I think the right people in the room to talk about it and help fix and help get it moved along and do all that kind of stuff. I just think that we need to make a decision on something and stick with it so that we can get to a 1.0. I think that's preventing us from getting to a 1.0.
Yeah. Also just how Brandon joined.
Oh, hey Brandon. So this meeting is this meeting was canceled.
Oh, it was? Okay.
Yeah, it was canceled. Marcella and I are just talking about catching up a bit. Having not been here for the last few meetings, catching up a bit.
Well, I was told to drop by this meeting at some point because to chime in on S-bomb stuff. So
Oh, you wanted to chime in on S-bomb stuff?
no, I was told to come chime in on S-bomb stuff.
Oh, oh God.
Yeah, because
good.
I'm working kind of an intersection. So
Okay.
yeah, I'm working on the salsa like components of SPDX. And again, want to clarify, SPDX is not equals SBOM. SBOM is a part of SPDX. So there's also that confusion.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, look, that argument in the conversation is extremely important, because of that small bit of confusion around what SPDX, actually is, in relation in relation to salsa. It's just a form of writing writing S bombs. It's a form of a written S bomb, but it's not. I mean, I don't know. That like a lot of these conversations are real. Man, we're like late in the game to be having a lot of these conversations. I don't want to say late in the game. I just think in terms of the spec that's being written, a lot of this stuff is like you can't be talking about that at this late stage. We're talking about 1.0. You shouldn't be trying to adjudicate what is or isn't an S bomb. I don't even know. Like what is? I'll soapbox again if I do that. I'll soapbox again. I don't want to do soapbox. All I want to do with respect to positioning is make sure that we're telling the story, and telling it correctly, and telling it the right way the first time, and not having to retract all the time.
Yeah, I think I have I don't know what the group has been up to, but I would be happy to kind of like, at least from the SPDX perspective, like write a blog post on the salsa blog to kind of like define that, if that's helpful, as a member of SPDX.
I mean, at our next positioning meeting, because I think it might be relevant for both salsa and S2C2F, especially if we do up level the positioning meeting to salsa and S2C2F to talk about SPDX, because I don't want to say most S-bomb generating tools, but the good majority of S-bomb generating tools at least the ones being developed today are using SPDX to generate S-bombs, and that's just because of EO compliance and all that kind of stuff. SPDX is an ISO spec currently, that meets EO that meets EO compliance. For helping to write S-bombs. So most generating tools are using SPDX to write them. It would be good for you to do that, but that would mean that for salsa purposes, and even for S2C2F, that we'd be saying SPDX is the SPDX is what we're going to be using to write S-bombs, and I'm not sure if we want to pigeonhole into one technology for that. I don't know. I'm just saying, I'm not sure if we want to pigeonhole into that one technology to write S-bombs versus maybe having a versatility, or being able to use an S-bomb written in any standard or whatever is an S-bomb, right? Maybe we go there. I don't know. I think that's up to the spec SIG to adjudicate, right? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean that's still forming up. So no one really knows what the execution of the EO verification is anyway.
Exactly. I mean, like all things that are still up in the air, right? I mean, like what is the and that's a large part of this too. A large part of this is the ambiguity. And I guess we work through it. You know, so that's why I say, I mean, I don't know about a blog that just talks about SPDX in relation to salsa. I think that we do need to have a discussion and then see where we want to go, but you know.
Yeah, I guess I'll stay tuned. Look on the wherever that's going to be posted. So I don't maybe chime in on that. Cool. All right. Sorry to barge in. I'll leave you all to chat. Continue chatting.
That's all good.
No, it's totally fine.
All right. Cool. Have a good one.
You too, thanks. Yeah, I'm probably gonna head out in a bit too.
Huh?
I'm probably gonna head out in just a bit too. Yeah. So based on what Brandon was saying, that was kind of an interesting point. Do you think the Salsa V1 blog post should have something about its relationship to SBOM and how it's not an SBOM? I don't want to confuse readers too much, right? Like,
so that was one of the things that I mentioned in there when they went on a couple of paragraphs. They talked about the delineation between the tracks, and then on like one paragraph they talk about how the build track incorporates one of the delineations of the other track, like the provenance. It said it includes stuff from version provenance version 0.1. I'm like, dude, that is, you know what I mean? So I, that being the case, I think that no, I don't, because I think to even introduce an argument about it's not an SBOM, I think to even do that creates more questions than it does answers.
fair.
Right.
Yeah.
If you have to go out and say salsa is not an SBOM, well, why is that even a conversation to begin with? Let's look deeper into any similarities or differences. And now you're saying, well, why would they even mention? You know what I mean? Like it creates more. That was my whole thing about salsa provenance and SBOM. Like, why would you even do that? Like an SBOM is an SBOM. Salsa provenance, salsa, but why would you even put those two together and say versus? Why would you even put a versus in there? Salsa versus, I mean, SBOM versus salsa provenance. Why would you even do that? Like what doesn't even make any sense to me. But so I would say no, don't even. Let me put it like this: an SBOM should help meet certain salsa requirements.
Sure.
I mean, if you, but I think for the purposes of that blog, that's not something you would mention in that blog unless it's somewhere at the end. Benefits of the build track is, this and that and the other, this and that and the other, and generating an SBOM can help you meet the requirements of level 1, 2, or 3 of salsa build track, salsa build levels, right? I gave you, I mean, I to say that, but does that need to go in it? Not necessarily.
Yeah. I've noticed not just even in the salsa meetings, but internally and talking to other folks in other communities, there's still a lot of the sort of opposing mentality of like, I mean, people have asked me like, why can't this be instead of an SBOM? Like, that's not what an SBOM is for. Like you said, an SBOM is an SBOM, and there's other standards for other information.
But that's because people still don't fully understand the nature of an SBOM yet.
Yeah,
that's
they
still,
don't.
That's still being tossed around in the air. Now we're talking about BEX documents that should accompany an SBOM. So what is the BEX document exactly, right? And then there's a large contingent that are still unaware of what these things actually are, what they're actually used for, And then there are a lot of people there are a lot of different thoughts around an S-bomb and what an S-bomb, and then you have P-bombs and E-bombs and
Yeah.
all kinds of bombs. I mean, it's like we didn't even get S-bomb out the door yet before now you got all these other bombs.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's hilarious. I sit back and I laugh about it.
Yeah.
But all an S-bomb is the ingredients of your software build.
Yeah.
That's it. That is it. There is no salsa. There is nothing else there other than the ingredients of your build, and all that will do is help you prioritize vulnerability remediation. Should
Yeah.
a VEX document tell you that there is a component that was used that is affected by a certain vulnerability. Now you have to go into your SBOM, identify which component that is, if it's there, the version number, etc. Is it vulnerable? Is it not vulnerable? Okay, well now I have to go ahead and remediate that, but let's prioritize remediation of those vulnerabilities depending upon what part of the build that particular component is in. I mean, that's basically it. But all that does is fulfill a requirement of salsa, maybe a control of a requirement of a level of salsa, maybe. Or maybe it's good for level 1. I don't know. But I don't know. And the reason why I'm saying I don't know is because the damn levels change so often, the criteria that you can't know, right? So you know that. But to equate an S-bomb with salsa is like that just ain't it.
Yeah, no, it's yeah, definitely not. Yeah, I think my fear is it's going to come up again. I've been a lot more involved in the on the specification side lately, and there's fields in the salsa provenance now that are basically like a mini SBOM. Like that's kind of what they amount to, because it's here's the dependencies we use and here's the hash of a dependency. And they list that. And so I think some people are going to look at that and be like, well, how's this different from SBOM? Because like what you're saying, like they don't understand the differences. So yeah. All right. While I have you here, I wanted to ask you about something entirely different that I've been meaning to reach out to you about. I'm organizing a workshop in November with some other folks. And we're looking for people to review like talk abstracts. Would you be potentially interested and available to do that?
Yeah, sure.
Cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's like part industry, part academia. So there's going to be potentially a good mix of stuff. But yeah, we need some more industry folks on our review committee. So
yeah, and I got you. I'll even put on my doctor hat for it.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, thanks so much. I'll send you the official like invite. But yeah, cool.
Cool.
Thanks so much. It was good to catch up.
Yeah.
All right. I'll see you around.
All right.